Basically, I'm curious, and I ask this of every recipient that I talk to, is what compelled you to apply for NHQA? How did you hear about it? How did you know about it? What was there some impetus that said, hey, we should try this, we should engage this program?
Sure. Yeah, I think about 2012, 2013, John and I attended the International Builder Show, and Scott Saddam introduced us to Serge at the time, who was over the NHQA, and found out about the program at that point. Really were interested. It's been a goal really since then, and finally, after many years, decided that this year was the time to apply. We had done everything that we felt we needed to be ready for that application. Now hindsight's always 2020. I think that we would have applied sooner after having gone through this experience. I think we would have done it sooner.
But we said we really wanted to look at a more holistic approach that also deals with human resource, with warranty, with our vendor relations, with our staff, et cetera. So this was a program, and again, to echo what Ryan was saying, we felt, okay, we need to do these things and really get better at it, and then we're going to apply for the NHQA when we're ready. Again, in hindsight, maybe we should have done this earlier and gotten a roadmap and done it earlier.
How did you approach the application process, and who was involved in that from your team?
So the entire management team was involved in the process and really approached it from not necessarily splitting out the sections, but we split out every single question within each section, and multiple departments had the same question. And so one of the really interesting things was to see how different departments answered the same question and really putting it all together in one document. And so we had multiple meetings and then deadlines of when that feedback or when those reports were going to be back to us to complete the application. And it really was a smooth process, and it shows, how efficient we are as a team with how well we were able to work through that application.
And it was also something that in that process, but also then further down in preparing for the on-site, we could already see in the outline in preparing for it, there's some areas we probably need to spend more time on. It already was the first glimpse of that holistic, what I just mentioned earlier, approach. Is there's some areas that we are very strong and we feel very strong, and it validated later, but there's some areas that were not as strong. And this was the first glimpse under the hood to say, there's some improvement opportunity there. And that was just in that filling out the application.
Talk to me about whether it's the application, the site visit, feedback report, any of that, how it met or didn't meet your expectations. I mean, how much of it was like, yeah, this is kind of what we expect. Again, you've had some heads up from Scott and had looked into the program, but how did the process meet your expectations?
So had done a lot of research on the program, had watched a lot of these videos, interviews with other builders, and so really knew going into it that this wasn't going to be a just quickly fill out an application and submit. It was an intensive process. It was a group effort from all the individuals on the management team, and then them implementing the help of their teams as well to prepare for the application. And so from the expectation of there, absolutely met that. And from the site visit, again, we were excited to have been awarded a site visit right out of the gate on the first application. And it was exactly what we were wanting and intending for it to be, is for them to look for any weakness, anything that we could be doing better. And they absolutely did. And we are better as a company having gone through those steps.
There was nothing that surprised me much. In fact, other than that, this was spot on. The whole process was very well thought through, guided very well. So the expectation setting was really good. Not disappointed. It totally met our expectation. I would say to people watching this, it is intense. Don't do it if you don't want to put in the work. It's going to take some real work to gather the information, to get your team together and all that. It's a very direct approach, and that's what you want. You want that very direct feedback, because that's where the opportunity is. You got to embrace the opportunity, because this is done by a lot of previous gold award winners that will, do as examiners, that will ask you the questions and give you some examples, and where you have maybe a weaker score, say, hey, here's what some other people have done or what we did in our company.
I know that you got your feedback report sometime in the fall. Obviously, have looked at it and have applied a couple of things, if not more, already from it, or at least started to. So maybe it's too early to kind of talk about the effects of that, but maybe not. I mean, that particular thing of being more transparent with your internal teams all the way out to the field. Has there been enough road now that you can say, well, that's been effective, or the feedback's been good, or we need to make some tweaks to that? Kind of how do you gauge it so far?
I'll jump in right there. Yes, we've started some of it, and the feedback is from people. They want to know more information, so we're trying to put a end of year from last year review together. It's probably going to happen within the next 2 weeks, of summarizing how we did. So we need to put a format together of all the information we want to share that is relevant, makes sense to share, and then the road forward for the rest of this year. It has the effort already paid off. One that immediately paid off before even getting the report back is when I look at the team that participated. It was a lot of work, but it really, when you look at it in hindsight, everybody was in the meetings with smiles on their face, sitting upright at the table, taking notes. And I don't know, Ryan, you have that book that we put together. Maybe you can you get a workout. But
oh my gosh, okay, yeah.
That right. Was the preparation we put together that encompasses every process that we have, all of our systems. It's a lot of work, but it brought the team together, and that being at that table with the examiners, knowing that everybody had a voice, that we're all on the same team, really, you could feel it.
One of the things that we can certainly improve on is safety, job site safety, and that immediately, talking with the field team about it, all over it, getting a real good safety plan implemented, getting our trade partners on board is a top priority as well. As John spoke to as well, looking at a strategy, looking at EOS to implement that. A lot of other builders we've seen and heard about, and especially through NHQA, have seen success with following that operating system. And so looking at getting implemented there as well. So, and then the vendor survey, we have another, we've already had a customer survey platform, but we're looking at another customer survey platform that also incorporates a trade survey, that we can really benchmark ourselves against other builders as well from their trade partner relations.
Okay, I've got one last question, but I also don't want to leave anything on the table. So I'm going to ask it, and then we'll see if there's anything else that you'd like to say about the program, although this has been terrific. And you've alluded to it a little bit, but what advice would you give to builders who may be considering applying for NHQA, or kind of looked at it and said, I don't know if it's going to help, or I don't think I need the help. I don't think I need to improve, or I'm improved enough. What would you say? What kind of advice would you give to them?
I would say jump in and do it. I think that had hindsight been 2020 again, we would have done this sooner. Had we understood the benefit of even submitting the application and not receiving a site visit, just the desktop review and the feedback from that would have put us on a different trajectory 10 years ago. So that would be my recommendation to another builder.
Yeah, I agree. We felt that we needed to be more prepared to do this, and that was not the case. Anybody that has been in operation for multiple years and feels like they're really wanting to improve the way they do business, this gives you a roadmap. It's not a one and done. It really is something that you can do multiple times, and you should do continuously, like we did also with Lean. It is a part of your culture. So the sooner you start, you'll gain the benefit earlier. Even again, if you don't get a site visit, well, then you have a roadmap on how to get a site visit. Once you get a site visit and you evaluate and you get an honorable mention, well, now you get a roadmap on how do you get to the next level. And it's not about the award alone. That's fun. And when you get it, you can celebrate it and market it and all that. But it's about what the delta means, because there's the gold standard. And if you're at a bronze or before, then that delta is opportunity to sell more homes, have happier customers, happier staff, more profitability, higher safety on your job sites, etc. So it's about learning what you can improve, not did I win something.